Good morning, friends. Thanks for being here this morning. You've joined Journey Home Meditation for the morning sit. We're going to be doing some contemplations and a little breathing and meditation together this morning. So thanks for being here. I'm Michael, and I'm happy to be here today. I often will remark on the opening comments of being happy to be here. And but the thing I want to talk about today, it ties right into this. Is happiness a sensation or an emotion? And what's the difference in sensations and emotional states of being? And what's the difference then in sensations and physical states of being? I've been thinking about this. I think about this a lot. But what are the connections between my emotional state, not my emotional sensations, right? My emotional state and my physical state. And what I mean by state, I guess, is the way that I overall feel that I am in this moment. Maybe it's a way of being that I either fall into a little groove of, or a way of being that I more than likely I start to identify with, and then anything that doesn't feel that way feels out of context or not exactly right. uh, I'm sure that a lot of people can identify with that. How much our identity makes us either feel normal or out of uh, out of the range of our normal way of being. Um, And it has very little to do with what we're actually feeling, and more to do with how we identify to what we're feeling. And I think a really good example of that is um, m- I have had some sort of physical ailment with my body pretty somewhat regularly for a couple of decades now. Uh, and so I identify with that level of pain being present. And so when it's there, I simultaneously feel familiar with and comfortable in some ways with the pain, and also feel completely rejected from my own body. This is one of the anomalies of discomfort and pain, whether well, we'll get into this further, but is the the ability that we have to identify as being a victim of pain, or being a recipient of pain, or being a person who has a regular experience of pain, and also not understanding why it is that we're feeling this way, and feeling like we're dissociated from our own lives because of it. And generally, when I'm speaking of pain, of course, we are apt and prone to go towards the idea of physical pain, right? Chronic pain disorders are when we hear that, when we hear that, oh, this person has a chronic pain disorder, we immediately go to the physical pain that exists with a chronic pain disorder. And the diagnosis itself, you're going to get a diagnosis for chronic pain disorder if you have chronic physical pain, the sensation of pain in your body. Um, but what about emotional pain? What is the connection between emotional pain and physical pain? And what is the reality of the sensation of emotional pain? Um, is it simply reserved for the way that I think about how I feel? Is it reserved for the way that I believe that I'm feeling in this moment? Or is it an actual physical representation of the sensation of that you're feeling? And I think when asked most people would say, yes, it's a physical sensation. I feel it in my body, you know. Um, there's even that old song, you know, I feel it in my fingers. I feel it in my toes. But if you were to ask somebody to make a scholarly uh, argument that your emotional pain was resulting in physical pain, physical discomfort, physical, sometimes even physical injury. And we can get into the difference between what it means to have pain and to have an injury. They go together pretty well, but they're not always the exact same thing. Um, but what we have found for those who are interested in having some sort of a peer reviewed scientific backing for the way that you feel in your body, which I understand a lot of people do want to be validated or have their experience validated through scientific study. It makes sense. Um, so, for those that are interested, the studies have all pointed for some time now that both emotional pain and physical pain share neurological pathways. And so, what this means, quite simply, is that the body does not differentiate between physical pain and emotional pain in the ways that we think it should. Uh, the the times that our body can more easily differentiate with its physiological response is when there's a wound or an injury. But pain isn't always related to a wound or an injury. Uh, Sometimes pain is related to growth or overuse. And we're talking both physical pain and emotional pain. Sometimes it's our growth that we are experiencing that is creating a level of distress that puts us into a fear response. And that fear response, interestingly enough, is the same response that we'll receive when there's a danger response. And what that means is that when you start to have an experience that triggers a level of fear or anxiety about what the future may hold, and you start to ruminate on that fear, your body is going to have a physiological response to this to release some pretty amazing hormones and chemicals into the body to protect yourself. So you're going to get a flood of cortisol. You might even get a little dose of adrenaline. And this energetic boost can take an experience of fear into an experience of anxiety if there is no physical outlet for that shot of body dope that you're receiving. Um, and so when we start to see those connections between the physical experience and the emotional experience, both in how we receive pain and how we receive protection, we can start to also understand that there is a connection between how we receive healing, how we receive in our body our ability to heal from physical pain may actually require emotional work. And in the book, The Myth of Normal, Dr. Gabor Mate talks about, to some great amount, the deep connections between the physical body and the emotional components of disease. Um, there's another book that he has, the When the Body Says No. It's another exploration into these connections. And the thing that I've been thinking about recently is, if I continue, I'm going to speak in the I here. If I continue to think that doing my work is reserved for doing some sort of an intellectual pursuit of understanding, and I neglect the emotional components of this practice, or if I neglect the physical components of this practice, then I'm not actually able to achieve any of those separately because there is no actual separation. Uh, I think it's akin to trying to make a loaf of bread and only focusing on the yeast. You know, you're putting all of your effort and energy into getting the perfect yeast bloom, but you're not paying any attention to the rancid flour or the fact that you don't have any salt or that the water is dirty or chlorinated, all of these other things that go into baking a really delicious, healthy loaf of bread. But you're only focusing on the one aspect, the growth aspect, the thing that makes you bloom, right? And in this practice, in this field of practice that we're doing here together with meditation and breath work, it's been relegated to um, a sort of self-help society. But this is not where it comes from. This is not the origins, nor this is also not the most ideal workplace for these practices to really take hold. Just as we don't find it beneficial to separate emotional and physical pain and healing, uh, we can throw in mental anguish in there as well, because emotional pain and mental anguish are related, but they're not exactly the same thing, but they are connected. They are deeply connected. So let's toss that in: emotional pain, mental anguish, physical pain, emotional healing, mental healing, physical healing. All of these things are taking place in the same place, and their healing is going to take place in the same ways. Um, just as that is true, the practices that we're talking about of meditation cannot just be isolated and separated into an individual's isolated practice. Of course, you can have your own practices for all of these things, and you're going to do your own internal work. But I guarantee you that the real benefits of this work exists in communion with others. I don't know if the individual exists, but I do experience the collective. I experience the collective in a myriad ways. I experience the collective in how my emotional state is being affected by the world and my interactions around me tells me that I am not isolated and alone. Now, some would say that you just need to build your defenses and become impervious to others. Maybe so. Maybe that works for some people. But the fact that I am influenceable and the fact that I am somewhat malleable tells me that I am not naturally inclined to be isolated and alone. And so the important aspects of healing here require me to formulate practices that are inclusive of all of the elements of expression of my body, but also inclusive of all of the components of a society that I am steeped in. Um, so I hope that this little bit of a ramble has been helpful in understanding my thought process for why we're doing what we're doing here and why it is important to me to not just have my own isolated meditation practice. You know, I live in a very beautiful place and I have a very beautiful opportunity to have this gorgeous meditation platform, you know, right out in the middle of the forest overlooking a creek. I have this beautiful place at home and I do use that space quite often, but I find it important for this practice to be shared. So I come in here to this office space and I sit in this awkward, non-ergonomically correct chair. and this isn't martyrdom or self-sacrifice, but I do it because I do believe that as much as my emotional pain, and my physical pain, and my mental anguish are connected, that my emotional healing, my physical healing, and my mental anguish healing is connected. Also, that I and you and every person involved with this is connected. So, if that's the case, if it could be true that we are connected, inextricably so, then your health and my health are bound in one. Our wellness is not self-help. That is not going to help. A phrase that I hear used often is self-compassion. Right? There's entire industry of self-compassion books and videos and workshops. And every time I hear it, I just think, that's not possible to think of it as something separate than. The word compassion itself requires more than self. The word requires more than self. The word means to share suffering. To share suffering. That's what compassion actually translates to. It breaks down into that. You can't share with yourself. And it's only when I began to recognize that the key to my social anxiety was vulnerability. The key to my depression was unbridled joy. The key to my fear was openness to receive. That I started recognizing that the antidote to the things that I suffer is to suffer with others, to suffer together. And that doesn't mean I want to extend my suffering onto others. It means that I recognize that I suffer, and I see you, and I recognize that you suffer. And if you suffer and I suffer, then it's safe to say we suffer. And when we suffer, it becomes lighter, becomes somehow easier to bear. And it doesn't make it easy. It's a gentler burden when we share it with others. And I think that that's where the healing has to come from. The Banksons have a verse that she sings. The hope comes from the place where the hurt comes. The hope comes from the place where the hurt comes. And I think that's where I'm at today. I'm in that place of understanding that that's where the hope comes from. I've never been a big fan of hope, but I'm okay with it now. The more I open myself to simply receive and accept and love, the less I find myself needing to reject, which is really good because rejecting things all day is exhausting. To be on guard all the time, it's not a way that I want to continue. But maybe we could just take this time that we do have together, instead of just always allowing me to ramble on and on, we can take a few breaths together. I don't know how that sounds to you, but it sounds wonderful to me. So let's do it. So you can find yourself sitting as I am in a chair. Maybe you're standing, driving, walking, wherever you are in this moment. You could even be lying down. I don't know. But wherever you are, You have a body. And the goal for this practice is going to be to embody our whole experience. And to do that, we're going to access that inroad to our body through our breath. The thing that we are doing all day anyway. The thing that our body would continue to do whether or not we thought about it. This is going to be our inroad because this is our unbridled, unfiltered connection to all of life. It's right there in your breath. When you breathe in, you're breathing in tiny particles that were once the stones buried in the Himalayas. And when you breathe out, you're breathing out those tiny particles of your DNA and every bit of steam that leaves your body, because it leaves your blood and it goes out into the world. You're deeply connected. And the word breath in the Latin was spiritus. So the word spiritual means simply to be of breath. That's it. So a spiritual practice is a breathing practice. That's all it is. It's simple. And it's available. So let's take just a moment and we can recognize that if my breath is the root of spiritual, and my breath is the thing that connects me to all things, to have a spiritual existence is to live in the recognition of our deep connection to everything. It's all right there. I'm deeply connected to everything. And it won't be until we are ready to recognize that we are deeply connected that we'll be able to heal collectively. So the sooner we start to recognize that in ourselves, the sooner you start to find the ways in which you are untethering yourself from identity and rejoining your own experience of life. So breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly, gently and slowly. Breathe in, I am connected. And breathing gently and slowly out of the mouth. Breathing out, I am one. Breathing in, I am connected. Breathing out, I am one. Breathing in, and breathing out. Relax the body, straighten the spine, relax the shoulders. Everything we do in this practice is to facilitate the breath. So slowly breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly. Feel for those places in the body that are asking to be opened. As you breathe in and out, become aware of the still, quiet voice inside. Allow your focus and awareness to stay with the breath, and allow the breath to bring your experience of awareness through the body, moving into the body. And as you exhale, feel the radiation of love and health that is slowly coming out of the center of your being with each breath. We are repairing ourselves always, repairing to become paired again, to join together. As you begin to feel the release in your body of tension and stress, recognize the release in your body of emotional distress as you slowly begin to calm and relax in the mind and the body and in the heart. And then connect all of this experience right to that breath. Feel that breath and make the connection. Thanks, everybody, for joining together in these few moments of gentle breath. As we allow our defenses to come down, our body to relax, and we stop thinking about ourselves as something to be fixed, we just relax and recognize the wholeness that we are, that we truly are. This is already wellness. And we have to ask ourselves how much we put stock into a belief that we are not well, how much we put energy into belief that we have to attain wellness, that we have to attain wholeness. And ask yourself how helpful that really is in your life. Let's ask ourselves how helpful it really is to walk around all day thinking that there's some way I could be better. What if you were walking around holding the hands of a child and you just kept saying to that child, you could be better? A child brings you a drawing. Look what I drew. Oh, well, that you could be better at drawing. It's laughable how much we would not do this. How it's not helpful and it's not guiding that child into a healthy, whole way of living, and how it's not even helping them to become a more skilled artist or a more skilled storyteller, to tell them that they're not good at it. That'd be ridiculous. And we even have this built-in sort of social meme that applauds people who are getting better all the time. I'm going to be better. I'm going to be more. This is what you should wake up striving to be better every day. I mean, what would happen to you if you just woke up feeling whole every day, just as you are? How would that feel in your body? How could that change your mind? So just as you wouldn't hold the hand of a child and tell them repeatedly that they should be better, consider what it is you speak to yourself every day. And consider how the way that we speak to ourselves informs the energy that we share with one another and the ways that we project as mirrors for one another, if this is the way that we see ourselves. And I hope that you find a way to heal that emotional pain and that physical pain and that mental anguish that feels like it's holding you back. And I know that just as much as pain is all connected and healing is all connected, it's important to remember that when we do begin to heal, we heal everything. Everything will start to heal as soon as we allow the healing to come in wherever we can bring it in, which means we have to stop keeping it out. So with that all said, I'm extending this one quite a bit of space this morning, and I've got other things I'd like to do today. And so I'm just going to sit with gratitude for just a moment, just to say thank you for helping to hold this space. And thank you for the emails. I appreciate them. I really, really do. And if you've emailed and I haven't gotten back to you yet, I promise you that you are not forgotten, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. We've had no internet at our home for the past 3 days due to an outage in our area, so I'm not returning messages in the evenings at this point, but that's okay. I appreciate you all. You can reach out to me at journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com. Hari Om Tat Sat.